Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Hello, friends of AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. We just celebrated our first anniversary. Thank you for your support. We have addressed many important issues ranging from health, education, finances, entertainment, history, and more. We are aiming to reach 3,000 followers in the next year, and I'm coming to you to ask you to follow our page and invite your family and friends to do the same. We trust you consider AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection relevant and timely, and with your help, we'll be able to reach many more. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. This is AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection with another very, very important show. Today I have mixed feelings. I feel both good and bad. I feel bad because we have to address a horrible issue today, scams, stealing money and identity. And I feel really good because we have an expert with us that I really appreciate, and I came I have known our guest today for several years, and honestly, I just could not see myself doing this show without her. She's very knowledgeable. She's an issue expert on this matter. So let me introduce to you who I'm talking about, and it is Linda Vitale. Linda Vitale has been at least a show in person and another time over the phone, if I'm not mistaken. And first of all, Linda, thank you so very much for joining us. It is a privilege to have you because I know you have a lot of information to share with our audience.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Linda. Linda is a tax preparer. She lives in Surprise. And she's also a community advocate. She writes articles for newspapers. She gives talks on fraud and scams in different parts, primarily on the West, I would have to say. And not only that, but she's also an author. She wrote the book, Scam Me Once, Can't Get Scammed Again. How did you come up with that title, Linda?
Well, it's sort of a takeoff of a joke, you know. If you try to fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, right. Shame on you. That kind of thing.
So you kind of got that concept from that.
Yes.
And what do you try to do in this book, Linda?
Basically, I discuss 30 of the most common scams, and what the scams are about, how they go down, basically. The red flags to look for, and then what things to do or not to do to avoid becoming a victim.
Thank you. And now this book, obviously, I'm sure that they can order it online. How can people order if they want to buy it?
Yeah, they could either put the name of the book, Scam Me Once, Can't Get Scammed Again, or they can put my name, Linda Vitale, in Amazon.com.
That's where all the books are, I suppose,
yeah, that's
right?
where all the books are.
Okay. And in addition to everything that you do, Linda, you are also a volunteer with AARP. And I was trying to remember, I believe it was 5 years ago that AARP launched the Fraud Watch Network campaign. Mm-hmm. And just to make it very brief, because we really want to get to the issues, because we have a lot to talk about. This is a campaign that seeks to basically inform, educate the country, because this is a nationwide wide campaign to inform folks on identity theft, fraud, scams, the different types of scams. And actually, most of what we're going to be talking about today is contained in the presentations that you and some 20 volunteers across the state deliver in libraries, public libraries, clubs, churches, and the like. So if anybody's interested in joining the network, because you are able to go online to www.fraudwatchnetwork.org, and you will be able to sign up to receive alerts. This is something unique. We do send twice a month, I believe,
yes,
alerts. to folks to kind of keep them informed of the newest things, because these things never stop, right? They keep coming at us. So you will be able to get alerts. You can go to there's a map there that you can click on the given state, and it'll tell you what kind of scams are taking place more prevalently in that state. So please do go to the website if you would like to. Let's get to the point, Linda, because I have about 15 questions to throw at you, and I know that you have the answers because this is your bread and butter. So let's start.
Okay.
Could we say, Linda, that the whole objective of this people, that this con artist, is to steal money and identity? Could we conclude that that's the objective?
Yeah, they get you to give up your information or to buy something, and the objective is to steal your identity. Absolutely.
So money, they're going to try to get your money first by some kind of deceit, right? In a deceitful way, they're going to try
get you to buy something, that kind of
right,
thing.
or maybe provide some very sensitive information, and if they can't do that, then they'll get your identity pieces, so to speak, names, and gradually they begin to get your profile to a point where they can do a lot of things with that information. And we're going to get to all those details. What information is key to scammers? What are they looking for?
Well, the two main things that they really want is your social security number, obviously, and also your medical ID number, your date of birth, and of course your credit card information if they can get it.
So basically, I have become so much, I don't know what adjective to use, but I do not throw in the trash anything that has my name. I don't care.
Good idea.
So you did not mention the name. Are you saying that it's pretty simple to find a person's name, but it is very important to pay more attention to the birth date, to the social security, that kind of thing?
Yes, absolutely. That's the brass ring for any fraudster is getting that social security number, because they can do a lot of damage with just that one thing.
Right. So the Social Security, and it's all over the place, right? When we apply for credit, that's the one number they want.
And you could never change your social security number. You're stuck with it. So.
It's pretty almost impossible. I mean, I'm sure in very extreme circumstances you might be able to, but it's almost impossible to change the social security number. So you're saying again, can you repeat the pieces of information that they want, and therefore that tells us what we need to guard with our lives?
That's right.
Well, what are those again?
Well, obviously your basic information, but the main thing that they're looking for is the social security number, your medical ID number, and also even your date of birth helps a lot, but also the credit card numbers, so they can start, running up your credit card and stealing from you that way.
Would you say the most, the one number that they will be able to do the most damage potentially could be the Social Security number?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's very interesting that our children, for example, those of us who still have younger children, they will not need credit until maybe when they turn perhaps 18. What is there anything that we can do with those Social Security numbers? Because what can we do?
Yeah, because child ID theft is also a serious issue, and of course the child doesn't realize, or the parent doesn't realize, that the child has had a problem until they grow up and they apply for credit or a loan or school, and things like that. So you should probably, most children don't have a credit file, but if you can, the first thing to do is go online and try to check your child's credit using their information. If they have a file, that means there's been identity theft. If not, then you should request, and it's a lot of paperwork, but it's worth doing to protect your child, but you need to put a freeze on their credit file.
So even though they're young, you are still able to put a credit freeze on
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a lot of paperwork to do it. They want all the information, and the parent must do it. And some states don't even allow it, but in the state of Arizona, you can do that for your
Can they
own
do it online?
Yes, you can do it on. Well,
Okay.
you can start the process online,
Okay.
but you have to mail in a lot of paperwork.
Unlike when you do your own as an adult.
Right.
Okay.
Unlike that. Yes.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. Now, one of the things that I know happens, not only do you lose your money, not only do you lose your identity, but you lose something even more important than that, and that's your peace. I remember my wife we think it happened in a clinic that she went to. They got her, excuse me, Social Security number, credit card numbers, and all kinds of things. And they open up services, Cox, and they bought books and they send them to jail. And I remember it took us at least a couple of weeks, and it was pretty crazy. Poor wife of mine, she basically lost her peace, and I'm there pretty much coaching her through this process. So peace is a big deal, and I'm sure that the longer it takes to clear it up, it's like a pain, a suffering, isn't it?
It is, because you feel personally attacked and violated, when that happens to you.
It's almost like when somebody breaks into your home. It's interesting that they broke into my home, and then not so long ago they broke into my son's home, and it's pretty scary to kind of think that somebody was in your home. So every time you go in, there's something almost telling you that for you to expect that somebody's going to be there.
You feel
pretty
much
scary.
more vulnerable when that happens to you.
So you're
Absolutely.
saying, would you agree that it's similar when you know that somebody else has your Social Security number, your personal information?
Yes.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there is a lot of that. I mean, with the Equifax breach, we had more than half the adult population in the United States has had their Social Security number exposed through that one breach.
And we're talking about homes. I immediately went and put more security in my home. So if you're listening and you don't have security, try to put more security. These things, sometimes you think it's not going to happen to you, but it does. Can you explain to us, I know that there is this concept of con artist. Would you explain to us what con artist is and how this phrase is used?
Well, a con artist is, it's the only criminal that is referred to as an artist.
Interesting.
They are artists. They are masters at what they do. They're very sophisticated, very smart. They have everything that they do gets improved, and they share their information. And so what they do, they manipulate people, and they're very, very good at convincing people to do whatever it is they want you to do, which is usually to give up your information or to buy something. Some of them are just opportunists, and they don't really care.
When those phone calls come in and that voice is there, it's just annoying. And
Yes.
Now explain to us before we go on our first break, Linda, because there's another concept called boiler rooms. What are boiler rooms?
Well, boiler rooms used to be just telemarketers calling from various companies dialing for dollars. Now, boiler rooms are just full of con artists just dialing all day long, just trying to get you to give up your personal information or, again, to buy something so that then they can steal from you that way.
They're very sophisticated, I understand, because they're in these huge rooms and they share information. Maybe one will call you, gather some information from you, and then maybe give it to somebody else with that background to then try a second time and maybe a third time, isn't it?
Yep. And they're in there all day long just doing that, and they have a script that they follow, and they know exactly how to get you to the point where they want you to get to, which we could talk about, getting you in that emotional state to get you to do what they want you to do.
Thank you, Linda. We have to go on our first break. Stay with us. This is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. When we come back, we're going to explore the ways in which the scammers operate. Stay with us.
Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Thank you very much for staying with us. This is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. We are dealing today with the issue of scams, stealing money and identity. And we have with us today issue expert Linda Vitale. She's an author. She presents this type of information in the community. And she also wrote a book, and you can see it here. It's called Scam Me Once, Can't Get Scammed Again. If you're interested, you can find that book in Amazon.com. Linda, let's get back to the issues here. I would like to focus the next questions on the way fraud and scams happen. Let's pick the category of print mail. I know that many of us are going paperless, right? But there's still a lot of print mail that goes to home, that is sent to people's homes.
Yes.
How does fraud and scams happen with print mail?
A lot of charities that are not legitimate charities will solicit money, and also there'll be a lot of fake sweepstakes and contests notifications that you're a winner, and they convince you then you're a winner. Just a lot of junk mail that comes in the mail, basically just trying to get you to buy things, or give up your information.
There is one particular that I recall you sharing in one of the presentations, because I do go to some of your presentations. I love to hear you speak. How about this credit approve? That when they tell you that you have been approved.
You've been pre-approved for a credit card.
Yes. What is that?
Well, sometimes it's a legitimate company pre-approving you, but other times it's not. It's just someone fishing for information from you because you think you're filling out an application, and when you fill out an application to apply for a card, you have to put in your social security number and your date of birth and all those things that a scammer wants to be able to make you a victim of identity.
So what is it exactly that folks get in the mail?
Mostly junk mail.
No,
but-
when I'm talking with this pre-approved credit card, is it an application that they have to fill out?
Yes.
And some
yes.
people fall for it, and
Right.
then they fill it out and send it back.
Yes.
Thinking
Well,
that it's legit.
Here's one of the things you got to be careful about, and a lot of times you might get a legitimate application from a credit card company, and they've checked your credit, and you seem to be credit worthy, but you may not want that credit card application. You may not want that credit card. You may not
Okay.
want to fill it out.
Right.
And so in that case, you should never throw that piece of application in the mail that you got in the mail in the trash without shredding it first.
So as a general rule, shredding is very important, correct?
Absolutely.
Never
And if you're
just
in
dump
doubt-
stuff in the trash.
Right. If
trash
you're in
bin.
doubt, well, should I shred this or shouldn't I? Just go for it and shred it.
And again, some pre-approved credit cards may be from a legitimate company, but if you did not solicit it and you don't care for it, just shred it.
Make sure
and,
you shred it.
And then the other type would be the fraud ones, the ones that are not legit.
Correct.
Okay. Now, sometimes, with smartphones, it's very easy to go to a person's home and in 2 seconds take a picture. So some people have maybe they take the liberty to leave sensitive information just on the sofa or the dining table. That people should be aware, because if anybody comes to a neighbor, whatever, and whoever, it's so simple to take a picture of sensitive information. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, if you have a worker ever come in your house, don't leave your checkbook or any personal information around for that they would have access to.
Right. It's amazing how we have to guard ourselves at all times.
I
right?
know.
Let's move to telephone, because print mail, I think we pretty much cover it. Be careful. Don't leave your personal information just anywhere in the home.
And make sure you
and
shred everything.
make sure that you shred everything. Now, telephone is a big item that used by con artists to commit fraud and scams. Can you share with us some of what is happening with technology, with the calls, and what they are trying to get us to do?
Well, there's two types of phone calls that come in. One is the ones from the boiler rooms that we just talked about. And then there's robocalls. So robocalls are recorded calls. And what they want you to do there is to press a button to talk to an operator, or press a button to get put on the do not call list. And those are just all traps. And if you follow those directions, you'll get more robocalls. So whenever you get a robocall, you should more likely just hang up the phone or monitor your calls and let them go to voicemail.
Okay, so let me ask you more questions about the robocall. So you're saying that the phone will ring, it's a robocall, and they're basically directing you to press numbers for certain actions that seem very logical to you?
Yes, and it's usually not a live person. It's a recorded voice. And then you're instructed to then proceed if by pressing one of the buttons.
Yeah. Now, what is spoofing?
Okay.
I know you mentioned that in your book, and,
Yes.
and this technical terms, in practicality, what is spoofing?
There's a lot of terminology out there, but spoofing is a very big one, very commonplace in telephone fraud. Because what happens is the first thing that happens to anyone when the phone rings is they look at their caller ID to see who's there, who's calling. And through the modern technology now, the person who's calling you can manipulate what you see on your caller ID.
Amazing.
So you can think it's the IRS or Medicare or Social Security Administration or your bank calling, but it's not. And so you think it's safe to pick up the phone because you recognize, maybe the person at the other end, and it's really a fraudster tricking you.
Yeah, so basically what you see is not what you get, right?
Right. I say don't believe what you see
Right.
on your caller ID.
Oh, that's good. So now, many people have gotten calls from the IRS, or apparently from the IRS. We understand that the IRS does not call.
No, they do not call.
People. Microsoft will sometimes somebody saying that they are from Microsoft will tell you the tech
tech
scam.
support,
How does that work?
Well, somebody that the caller ID looks like it's coming from Microsoft or some other virus company, and they tell you that they have detected there's a virus on your computer. And there isn't, and they are not from Microsoft, because Microsoft doesn't call you, neither do the tech support companies.
Right. Now, the grandparent scam, is that still popular, or that's more a thing of the
Very.
past? Oh, it's still
Very
happening.
popular.
What
In
is
fact,
that grandparent
The
scam?
grandparent scam is when somebody calls impersonating a grandchild. And actually, we started calling it the grandparent scam because that's how it started out. But now we call it the friends and family scam because it's not only your grandchild that may call who needs help. It's anyone, a friend or a family, who calls frantically and says that they're in trouble in some way. They're arrested, or they're in jail, or they've had an accident, or whatever happened to them, and now they need money, and they need you to wire them money.
Wow.
And they're just basically impersonating someone they're
Right.
not.
So help us understand the different ways by which the scammers ask the victims to send money. I know there's the wire, and then there's the prepaid cards. Can you just
Right.
elaborate a little
Well,
bit on that?
A scammer will want to receive money in untraceable ways.
Okay.
And so that they don't have to show ID at the other end. So that they like to get their money through usually prepaid cards, gift cards, Amazon, iTunes cards, whatever they can convince you to go to the store and load up on a debit card or whatever. And then all you have to do then is just give them the number, and they can retrieve the money at the other end. And also bank wires, Western Union, like that. Those
Now,
kinds of
there's another thing about when you buy, say, something on Craigslist, that they send you a fake check. Can you explain how that works? Because sometimes they offer you more than what you're asking. Can you
Right.
explain to us how that transaction takes place?
You sell something, and they offer, you go back and forth and decide on a fair price, and then they will say they're sending you the money. In fact, I just read a scam where they say they're going to pay you through PayPal, and you get a fake email from PayPal that your transaction went through, and the transaction really didn't go through PayPal. So now you are sending your merchandise thinking you got paid, and you didn't. And then a lot of times what happens, if it's not PayPal, if it's a check they wrote or money that they supposedly wired you, maybe they gave you a fake check or whatever, they sometimes give you a larger amount than what you negotiated for. And then they say to you, well, we wrote the check for the higher amount. Can you please send us the difference back? And what you'll find out is when you deposit that check in the bank, that check is counterfeit,
Right.
but the bank's not going to know that for a couple of weeks.
Wow.
And so you deposit the check, you send them the excess money back, and now you're out your money.
So the bank takes a few days to find out if a check
Oh,
is fake.
absolutely.
Wow.
Sometimes it takes over a week.
Now the issue at the door. Does fraud take place, scams at the door when people just maybe show up, they offer services?
Yes, they do. At the door, one of the biggest ones lately is package deliveries. And if it has alcohol, one of the biggest scams out there is that they say, we have to deliver this to you, but you have to sign for it because it contains alcohol, and you have to pay a little bit of a fee just because we need to prove that we delivered it. And you just have to give them your debit card. And, then the person believes that and gives them their debit card number, thinking that that's what they have to do in order to receive the package.
Yeah. And I watch the news, Channel 3 sometimes, I think it's called 3 on Your Side, and they've done reports on people doing services, some fixing of homes, and there's a bunch of fraud in there too. So
Yes.
what is the recommendation there?
Well, that is where somebody who's a supposed workman will come and find something wrong with your house and offer to fix it for you.
Right.
And sometimes they will fix something small for you. Then you've gained their trust, and then they find something else that's a larger repair, and now they need money ahead of time to buy the materials.
right.
So you give them your credit card, or you write them a check for the materials, and then they're long gone and with your money.
It's interesting. I'm currently, somebody's helping me to put tile in one of the bedrooms in my home, and he didn't finish yesterday. He says, "Can you give me this amount of money?" And then I kind of value what he had done already with what he was asking, and I said, "Sure."
Yeah.
So I gave him that money because I considered that was,
The amount of labor he did was-
So bottom line, we have to be very careful. Ask around, ask people that know. Don't make decisions so fast, right? That's obviously
right.
a very...
You just can't trust that the person at your door is who they say they are and whether they're legitimate or not. Even fake people soliciting from charities at your door as well.
It's interesting. You mentioned charity at least a couple of times. Is that a prevalent fraud with charity?
Charities,
Or fake
yeah.
ones?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Fake ones and not so fake ones, because there are some legitimate ones, but they use a lot of money for administrative purposes, and the money that ends up going to the actual cause is very limited. So one needs to find out what percentage, right?
Yes, you need to do your research,
Right.
absolutely, and find
Yeah.
out how much of what they're collecting is actually going to the victims that they're supposed to be helping.
Thank you. We are going to have to go on our second break. When we come back, we're going to talk about text messaging, email, internet, credit cards, you name it. Stay with us. This is AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. We'll be right back.
Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Thank you very much for staying with us. This is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. I am, doing a show on Saturday, it takes a lot of work, but I am so satisfied, so happy, because I believe that what we are doing is providing very, very valuable information to our community. And that's what makes it worthwhile. Getting up early, getting ready, finding speakers, deciding on shows, etc. It's an amazing privilege that I have to sit here week after week and have guests to come and address important issues. And thank you. This morning we are joined by Linda Vitali. You said that Vitali is an Italian last name? Vitale? How would you pronounce it?
Well, if you were in Italy, it would be Vitale.
Vitali. Okay. Yeah. So Linda is an author. She wrote a book called "Scam Me Once, Can't Get Scammed Again," and it's in Amazon if you want to look for it and buy it. She is in the community, doing lots of presentation, writing for articles for newspapers. And I just wanted briefly use a few seconds to also congratulate you because you were given the award. This is given by the Northwest Maricopa County League of Women Voters.
That's correct.
And the name of the award is
You Make a Difference.
You Make a Difference Award, and you got it. Is this a yearly thing? And you got it in 2017?
Yes, once a year they give it out. Yeah.
Well, there's always, you do so much for AARP as a volunteer that I always think, what can I do to give back, to volunteers who help us so much in the community. And just to know that you've been awarded this, and also to basically echo that award because you do make a difference. And thank you, Linda, for everything that you do. In addition to everything, you also are a professional tax preparer, correct?
Yes.
Linda Vitale.
I keep busy.
Yes, thank you
for
so
sure.
much. Let's do now text messaging. Do they also use text messaging to commit their crimes?
Yeah, I just got a text message the other day from a bank that I don't use, I don't have an account with, but was threatening that my account was going to be frozen and locked down unless I verified my account number. So a lot of times with text messages, it's the message is same as emails where they create a crisis. And then in order for you to remedy that crisis, you have to either text back, or if it's email, you have to click on a link.
Same concept, would you say?
Same concept.
Same concept. It can be over the phone. It could be via mail. It can be via text message. How about email? Same kind of concept.
Yeah.
I understand email could get more sophisticated, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because the email, just like spoofing with a telephone, an email can come to you and look very, very authentic. And you will really believe that it's from whoever the sender is. And a lot of times if you hover your mouse over the sender, you can see it's not really who they say they are.
Right.
But they will put a link in that email, and that's the trap. By clicking on that link is when you get your computer infected. And the link is provided there with the thought that you are going to click on it, because in the email message prompts you to click on that
Right.
link because you have to do something
Right.
in order to solve a problem.
So, some might say, well, just forget it, delete the email. But what are some of the safeguards, if you will? What can we do if we wanted to click because that, you think is legit? I have heard that you can literally type the actual address name outside in maybe Google, and is that something
Right.
that...
Right. Well, obviously, if you get an email from, say, a bank that you're not a customer to, right away. But if you happen to be a customer of that bank and you get an email, the first thing you have to know is most legitimate companies are not going to ask you for personal information
Right.
or make any threats or fear in an email to you. So that's the first part of it. But the second thing is, yes, the emails look very, very authentic. And the best way, if you're not sure, is rather than click on that link, go directly to your website browser and type in the name of the actual company. And a lot of times, if the company has had some email fraud, they're going to have a notice on there.
Right.
APS had one recently where there was a lot of fraud about that. And they said, if you get an email from us saying your account's going to be closed, it's fraud.
Right.
Don't follow through with it.
And what we need to, I create links sometimes. And what people need to understand is that the actual address is one thing, and what you name that address is a totally different thing.
Right.
So some people may be directing you to somewhere where they want you to go, and then use the name for that link, a name that is very attractive, very nice.
Or similar.
So a link is basically a web address, and then somebody picks the name that they want to give that link to deceive people if it's not legit.
Right, if it's
Yeah.
not legit.
Right. How about so with internet, let's talk about the internet in general, because we spoke about text messaging and and emails, but the internet is the broader picture. What's happening with the internet in terms of Wi-Fi. You know, right now today everybody wants to use free internet, so they look for Wi-Fi hotspots, as they call them. What's happening with fraud in the internet?
Well, if we want to talk about Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi is used so much now, but people don't understand that Wi-Fi is not private. Anything that goes through the Wi-Fi connection is out there for anyone to intercept. And that's what happens is a lot of times there is interception going on there. Man in the middle, where if you're at
Right.
a coffee shop, there's somebody there that's intercepting what you're doing online. Also, there's something called evil twin, where you think you're logging on to the legitimate Wi-Fi network of, say, Starbucks or a hotel if you're traveling, things like that. And it's not really the legitimate Wi-Fi connection of that particular service that you're connecting to. So that's one way of stealing information. So you should never do anything personal when you're using public Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Now, when you're at your home, what protects your Wi-Fi is your router. You have to make sure that your router has a very secure password, because everything that passes through that router goes out into the internet.
You know, when these new things about the wireless networks at home were starting, I remembered in my home I would search for networks, and there was a bunch and none secure. These days, I hardly find one unsecure, which is a good thing.
It is a good
So people are learning that they need to secure their internet wireless networks
Right,
at
and
home.
even there, wherever they log on to, need
Right.
to have secure, good, stealth, long passwords.
And then the antivirus are so critical
Right,
that
make
they,
sure
they
that-
keep them
Yes,
updated.
and the Equifax breach, part of the reason that happened was because the company did not update a very integral part of their their software. And so the lesson learned there is you can have virus protection on your computer, but if you don't keep it updated, you're vulnerable.
Right. And let's say the truth here. Social media is free, but it's free with the intention of getting data from you so they can sell it. Is this a fair
Yes.
a fair
Everything
statement?
you click on, everything you look at, everything you buy is all tracked, cataloged, and sold to data brokers and advertisers and all of that. So the internet is not private.
Yeah.
Really never has been, but people think it is.
And we all use it. I mean, some for bad intentions, some for good. Let me just give you an example. We just purchased a Facebook ad. We want to invite people to like our page and follow our page. And when we buy the ad, we specify who we want to reach, the age group, ethnicity or what have you, anything that you want.
Right.
So how in the world do they know? If not by all the clicks and all the information that we provide. So let us be clear that yes, social media is free, but it's free because you provide information that then they go out and sell to
Yes.
people, correct?
That's absolutely 100% correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, before we go on our, it would be our last break actually. Help us understand this. There's a lot of people who think that doing banking online or online banking is not safe, and they prefer to go to print and still get the print statements. That's why I said earlier that we're going paperless. Many of us are. So do you consider online banking safer?
Yeah, I think banks and credit card companies probably have the best security. They tend to get less data breaches than other businesses. And as long as you have a really good, strong password, and you change it up every so often, it's better to be able to have online banking because you're keeping track of where your money is, and you'll know right away and a lot quicker than getting your statement in the mail whether or not you've had bank fraud.
Let us move to another item because, we want to use every second that we have. Medical ID theft. This is becoming more popular.
Yes.
Medical ID theft. What is this?
It is the stealing of your medical insurance information so that someone who doesn't have medical coverage can go out and use your information to get medical services.
Are you kidding
Or
me?
drugs or operations, whatever.
So
Yeah.
basically, I can get somebody else's Medicare number, name and maybe date of birth, and that's sufficient for me to go and be you actually at a clinic, at a hospital?
They, as long as they have your information, they make a phony Medicare card or insurance card, and then go get medical services. And the problem with that is then your medical records are contaminated by whatever the services they were provided.
They perhaps may even give you some services or prescribe something that has nothing to do with your condition. Is that possible?
Yes, that's correct. That's why it has absolutely deadly consequences.
So tell us again before we go on our break. On the medical ID theft? What is the con artist after? Your ID number?
Your ID number.
Medicare?
And unfortunately for people who are on Medicare, that's the Social Security number.
Which is changing.
Yeah.
And we're going to elaborate just a little bit when we come back on that. And then we're going to go to credit cards, debit cards, investments. Stay with us. You are listening to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. We'll be right back.
Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Thank you. Thank you for staying with us. This is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. The subject today, scams. Stealing money and identity. We have to cover credit card and debit cards, Linda, but before we move to that subject, can you give us a summary then about the medical identity theft? You said that people can get services under your name and you did not even know about it. What are other areas that this can affect?
Well, it contaminates your medical records, but also you can get turned down by an insurance company because you're over your limit for medical services. You can get the bill for whatever services were provided by the fraudster. So you can be stuck with the copay. One of the way you can also your health plan can be turned down if you apply for new health care. The best way for medical ID theft to make sure is to guard your medical ID number, and also make sure you read your explanation of benefits, because that's going to tell you whether or not there's any fraud going on there.
So the explanation of benefits, in the case of Medicare, even if somebody else use your card, it'll show out there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's very important.
It is.
Because of time, let's move on, because there is this concept of credit card versus debit cards. Can you help us understand why one is preferred versus the other?
Well, because credit cards, you have what we call recourse. You can call up your credit card company if there's a fraudulent purchase on your account, and the credit card company then will reverse the charges, give you a new credit card, you're on your way, everything's fine, no problem. Actually, technically, you're supposed to be responsible for the first $50, but they never really charge you that. With a debit card, people forget the fact that whenever you use your debit card, the money that is being spent is coming straight from your checking account.
Right.
So if there is any way that debit card got compromised, and a lot of times they get compromised through skimming machines at gas stations, in restaurants. When you slide your card in and out, especially at gas stations, there's a little device in there that reads that information off the back of the card.
Amazing.
Okay, and then what happens is they make a counterfeit card, and now they go out and spend your money, and that money's coming out directly from your checking account. Now, what happens is when you finally discover it, you don't have the same recourse as you have with a credit card. And if you don't report it soon enough, you're responsible for $500 between the first, time you discover it to 60 days.
With debit cards.
Yes. And then after 60 days, if you haven't discovered it or reported it to the bank, you're responsible for an unlimited amount of money, whatever's taken out of your account, and your account could go to zero. The other thing to know is that while the bank is investigating the whole process of what happened, you have no access to your checking account. Your account is frozen.
Wow, that's horrible. That is horrible. So would you say that it's preferred to use credit cards?
Yes.
And why do you think people continue to use debit cards?
Well, it's convenient for one thing, especially with the younger generation. They swipe their card for everything. But because that way it's easier to keep track of their money that way versus a credit card. If you keep using that, then all of a sudden you get hit with the bill later, and you just you're a little bit more restrained using your debit card. But it's more dangerous. So never use your debit card at restaurants, online purchases, and at gas stations.
Because of time, we have to move on. What can we do? Because the Social Security number is very much linked to credit.
Yes.
For the most part. What can we do regarding our credit? There are 2 or 3 actions that I believe we hear and hear and hear, but not everyone takes actions.
Well,
what
the
are
first
those?
thing is make sure that you are regularly checking your credit report.
Okay.
And if you go to annualcreditreport.com, it is the only federally authorized website where you can get a free credit report from each of the credit bureaus for free. So you want to do that, and you can do it 3 times a year by staggering it. So in January you get one from one credit bureau, then in May you get the second one, and in September you get the third one. That way you are looking at your credit report for free all year long, and if there's any identity theft, that's where you're going to find it.
So credit reports. How about credit freeze? What is that?
A credit freeze is what it does is it basically puts a padlock on your credit file, which means if I had your Social Security number and I wanted to go apply for a loan or a credit card, I wouldn't be able to do so. Because even if I filled out the application, there is a credit check that is required before the money gets lent to you or the credit card gets issued. And if there's a lock on your credit file, that process doesn't go forward.
Now, you did tell me that you froze your credit, and even you tried to get credit and you couldn't.
Yes,
that
I
actually
went to go
happened
get
to
a
you?
loan at the bank, and they couldn't get in. And that's when I knew, wow, this really does work. And what happens is you can temporarily unlock your credit freeze, and it costs $5 right now. But word is out that the credit freezes, lifting them and placing them are going to be free eventually.
Okay,
probably
so
by the end of the year. But
this
right
is-
now it's $5 to do it.
So this is a good news, actually, because
Yes, it
some
is good
states
news.
had a $5 fee to freeze and unfreeze.
Right.
But now, moving towards the end of the year, it's
It
going to
should
be
be
free
free.
nationwide.
Yeah, so then it's really no excuse. But
That-
even for $15,
Wow, right.
it's worth doing. It's like buying insurance for future economic identity theft.
Credit reports, credit freeze. What is a fraud alert?
A fraud alert is when you suspect there might be some shenanigans going on. Say you see a fraudulent thing on your charge on your credit card, but you're not really sure if your credit card was totally compromised. So you call up, or I don't think you can do this online. I've never placed a fraud alert, but I know that you have to do it through the credit bureaus. So I don't think you can do it online. I think you have to call them, and you place an alert. It's like putting a red flag on your credit
Right.
account, so that if someone tries to apply for credit, there's a note in your credit file that says, make sure you verify that this is a legitimate inquiry.
So everyone should have somewhere, written down that the name of the 3 companies, the phone number of the 3 companies, and the email address, not the email, but the website address of the 3 companies.
Yes.
Which are TransUnion, Equifax,
and Experian.
And Expedient. It's very, very important to have that information handy. Let's move real quick. We only have like 3 to 4 minutes. Investment, and I know at AARP we do not deal with investment fraud that much, but what we do, just a few items. What are those items?
Well, things like gold coin scams.
Right.
There's Ponzi schemes out there. A fraudster will, try to call you and convince you that there's a great investment, or you might get a free lunch invitation, and that's a con artist's tactic to try to get you to woo you, with a free lunch to get you then to buy one of their investments. And a lot of times those investments are promises of very high
yields.
yields, and a lot of times you might have to pay an advanced fee.
That's a very important thing to keep in mind. If they're starting to ask you to pay in advance, that's already a red flag.
That's an absolute red flag.
Yeah,
yes.
and then high yields, promising 20%,
Yeah,
30%.
well, the old adage, if it sounds too good to be
Right.
true, it is.
Yes. Just as we wrap up, prevention. Just what are some good habits to have when it comes to guarding ourselves against fraud and scams?
Well, I would say do your homework, do your research. Don't believe what you see on your caller ID. Always ask questions. Go online, do some research. You can put the name of a company or a person and put the word fraud, scam after their name or the name of the company, and if there's any dirt, it'll come up. Make sure you're monitoring your bills, you're monitoring your credit, you're monitoring all of your personal data, and don't give it away so quickly. Put your name on the do not call list, monitor your caller ID, don't answer robocalls and press buttons. Lots of different things. Never give out your social security card. Verify charities. If you want to give to a charity, go straight to the source of the charity rather than the person on the phone or at your door.
Yeah,
those kinds of things.
That is, and then never make decisions quickly, right?
Right,
Always
right.
take your time and ask around. Let your family members that you trust. Hey, I got this call, I got this letter, I got this email. Don't act too quick. Just last thing, there is a concept called ether. That this is what the main, if you will, tactic used by con artists. What is ether?
Well, ether is just the common name that a fraudster will use, a con artist uses, and that is the state of mind that they want you to be in when they try to perpetrate whatever fraud when they want to do. So basically what it is first a caller, a scammer will profile you and try to see the type of personality you are so they know how to approach you. Once they've profiled you by asking just basic questions about you and your life and your job and your career, things like that, then they approach you in various ways. So what they're trying to do is push your buttons and get to your emotions. We all have very powerful emotions: fear, greed, urgency, love, loneliness. And all of those things are used against you to try to get you to that state of mind that they want you to get to. And it's called ether. And once you're there, logic goes out the door.
Right.
Okay? And you make decisions that you normally wouldn't make if you weren't in that heightened emotional state.
Wow. We cover a lot of ground. Thank you so much, Linda, for being with us. Please remember that the AARP Fraud Watch Network at AARP, or you could actually go www.fraudwatchnetwork.org. You can get a lot of information there. There's even a phone number there that you can call, and there's a call center that you can call, and volunteers who have been trained to help people that have questions, or maybe they have been victimized. They can get a lot of help.
Good
so thank you.
videos there, lots of
Yes.
resources. Yes.
So thank you very much, Linda, for joining us again. Your book, it's in Amazon.com. Scam Me Once Can Get Scammed Again. Thank you for your time and your expertise, and thank you for that. And congratulations again on that award that you got.
Thank you.
You are making a big difference.
All right.
Thank you so very much for joining our show today. It was Scams, Stealing Money and Identity. We really hope you enjoyed it. Have yourselves a good week. This was AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection.